Thanks. It's quite an incredible display of cognitive dissonance here. I mean, you go to the media and you tell them you're going to put money back in people's pockets. Then you come in here and you're asked, on behalf of disabled people who are crying out for this, you're asked to put money back in their pockets by a winter emergency measure, a one-off payment, and you just bat it away. I mean, these are the people, and you didn't engage with it at all, these are the people that you made poorer. Not just a little bit poorer, you made them a lot poorer, €1,400 worse off as a consequence of the budget. You cut the disability support grant, a loss of €400. You cut the living alone allowance, a cut of €200. You reduced the fuel allowance, a loss of €160. You cut the October double payment, a loss of €254. You cut the electricity credits, another loss of €250. Altogether, over €1,400 taken from the pockets, not put into the pockets, taken from the pockets of disabled people. And yet then you still think you can go to the public and say, oh, don't worry, we're going to put money back in people's pockets. The excuse before the budget from your predecessor was to say we don't need cost of living payments because, quote, inflation has now returned to normal rates. Well, we know now that that was a load of nonsense. He's now in Washington. He's on over 600,000 a year. I'm sure he's not bothered by the cost of groceries. But ordinary people here are left with the highest inflation in 2 years. They're out preparing for Christmas and they're seeing the reality of still soaring grocery prices, over 4% food price inflation, 3.3% energy price inflation. It's going to be a cold, hard Christmas for a lot of people. The cost of 1,000 litres of home heating oil has shot up. And yet a country with a massive budget surplus, a rich country, you had a budget that made everyone poorer, except if you were a fast food giant, if you were a multinational corporation, or if you were a developer. But in particular, it hit the poorest and most vulnerable the hardest. The bottom 10%, as a result of the withdrawal of one-off payments, they had an income decrease of 4.4%. The next 10%, a loss of 3.9%. But then this particularly cruel approach to disabled people, abandoning the promise to introduce a permanent cost of disability payment, and then withdrawing the one-off payments. They're not going to take this lying down. You're telling them, no, everything's great. We've actually improved disability services. All the organisations are screaming at you saying, we need an emergency winter cost of disability emergency payment. They're going to be in front of the Dáil, the Irish Wheelchair Association, Disability Federation of Ireland, Access for All, together next Tuesday from 12:30 to 2 p.m. Please don't continue to be Scrooge, don't continue to be Grinch. Give this little back into people's pockets.
Well, firstly, I don't remember you welcoming budgets where we brought in cost of living measures before the election. You're kind of opining, wishing we brought in, wishing you had the budgets of the last number of years. I don't ever remember you supporting measures that we brought in this House over the last several years to try and assist people at a time of extraordinarily high levels of inflation. And you would also, I'm sure, acknowledge, as you seek to slag Pascal, who, quite frankly, I take his view on the economy more seriously than yours, you seek to slag him for his views and call them nonsense. There's a reason the World Bank hired him, because he knows a few things about economics. That's the first point. You would surely acknowledge that while we'd like to see inflation fall further, that inflation both in Ireland and in the Eurozone is at a much lower level than it was when those cost of living packages were brought in. I mean, the inflation was off the Richter scale for a period of time. And it may be your position, in fact, in fairness to you, I think it is, you're quite clear about it, that you want to have two annual budgets, effectively. A budget that runs from now to kind of Christmas and then another budget that runs next year. We can't run the economy like that. We just can't. It's not sustainable. We have to get back to an annual budget. And that's what we said we were going to do. And that's what we have done this year. You talk about a cold winter, and really I'm conscious that people look in on this from home. And I want to talk to those people too. I want them to know that there are a number of measures in place to help people with energy poverty this winter. If you're an older person, perhaps living alone, this week you will quite rightly have received a double payment in relation to your state pension. You will receive the fuel allowance, which is now up to over €1,000 a year. That fuel allowance due to go up again in the new year. You'll see the household benefits package in terms of that cost coming off your energy bill worth, I think, over €400 during this period. And we've reduced the VAT rate, which other parties proposed allowing go back up, including some thought the VAT is to go back up in April. We didn't. We've extended that for quite a number of years more. But you make these snide comments, Deputy, and I know we have different political views, but you know, all you care about is helping the multinationals. Did you see the Exchequer returns yesterday? Like, what do you want us to do? Send the jobs and the money back somewhere else? We're very proud to be a government that is pro-enterprise, and we're going to continue to pursue policies to keep jobs in Ireland, to keep revenue in Ireland, because that is helping to fund the country. It's helping to provide so many employment opportunities, including in your constituency. So you're getting very close to the kind of "Asher, send them all away" brigade. We need to continue to make sure we support policies in this country that attract the jobs, because there's many people in your constituency and mine that got in a car this morning and drove to work in one of those multinationals that you kind of just dismiss our support for as though it's irrelevant. And then you also say your support's for developers. You like to call them developers because that's, in your view, a dirty word. I like to call them people who build houses. People who build houses in a housing emergency. People who build it. But no, it's a serious point, Deputy. I know you know, you can laugh and you can have your little ideological view of the world, but we need to build apartments. We need to build, and all of the decisions we take are to protect jobs, because that's how we keep people in employment. It's how we also run the country in terms of funding public services. And we also make sure that we can stimulate the building of houses and apartments in this country. These are good things to do. But I want people with a disability to know, as I've directly said to Deputy O'Callaghan, unlike your comment, we haven't abandoned anything. Work is underway in relation to a cost of disability payment. And as recently as this week, organisations representing people with a disability didn't need to stand outside the gates. They were in the department helping engage on this very payment.
Deputy Murphy.
What a battery from the Tánaiste to avoid the point. Tánaiste, can you yes or no question? Your budget made almost everybody in the country poorer. Yes or no? Yes or no question. Your budget made those who were poorest, they were affected the worst by the budget. Yes or no question. Your budget left disabled people substantially worse off. The answer to all of those is yes. I'm interested in hearing you try to spin how the answer is no. You ask, what do I want you to do? What I want you to do is that you have a substantial budget surplus, and in that context, you should not be making disabled people poorer. That was a mistake made in the budget. You agreed to it, presumably, and I am appealing to you in the days running up to Christmas to use the resources you have to reverse that decision. Do not make disabled people poorer next year. Therefore, do what they are asking of you and introduce an emergency, one-off winter payment. It's very, very simple. That's what I'm asking. It's a political choice for you to do that or not to do that. I don't know if you're suggesting doing that somehow all the jobs will flee the country. Is that the kind of scaremongering you're engaged with? You can make a choice not to drive these people, who are many of them living in deprivation, not to drive them further into poverty when we're a rich country, when we have a substantial budget surplus.
No, the point I'm making is very clear. You stand up and you make snide remarks about supporting multinationals or snide remarks about supporting developers. I make the point that that's about supporting jobs and building homes. That's the difference with your ideology and ours, and you're proud of that difference and I'm proud of it as well. We have a different view in relation to this. The multinational jobs in this country are important. They help actually fund, through income taxes and corporation taxes, the running of this state, and it's a bloody good thing we have them, and we need to work to continue to make sure we attract investment into this country, particularly at such a volatile time, because you know how you make people poorer in the country. You make people poorer by actually just continuing to go along on the hope that everything's grand and wake up one day and realise that actually the fiscal vulnerabilities that are in the paper that I published yesterday in the Department of Finance have come to be realised. We're not planning on opening the budget process again, because we're delivering one annual budget. Within the context of the budget that we've delivered, we have delivered a progressive budget. The budget documentation shows that it is a progressive budget, helping those most in need over those who have the most. That's the budget that we ran. That's the budgetary process, progressive budgets that we'll continue to run. And in the context of that, we've made a number of decisions to increase weekly supports to people with a disability, to invest significantly in services for people with a disability, and now work is underway in terms of the development of a cost of disability payment, and we want to work in partnership with representative groups and political parties in terms of getting that right.
Understanding our 38A.